Greetings, folks. Iolair here, and welcome to my dark side.
Okay, yeah, I'm playing aircraft carriers now. This is actually the second random battle I had in carriers. The first random battle was with a Hosho. I had a couple of colleagues with me in division so that they could help mop up for any mistakes or screw ups that I made. In this match, however, I went solo and I thought I did pretty well, and I posted the results for this match to my Facebook group and almost immediately got some very good feedback and comments from the folks. So I thought to share the replay with the community. So this is a Tier 6 domination match on Trident with only one destroyer per team. I am running a commander with 14 skill points, a strong emphasis on plane endurance, torpedo systems, and I put the dive bomber modification upgrade in slot 4 to improve their HP pool, since the dive bombers tend to spend the most time in AA bubbles. So I'm going to talk through my thought process about this game, where I thought I did things pretty well, where I thought I screwed up and I need to improve. I will also have several points that were shared with me by my good colleague USS Erwin M. Fletcher, who is a Unicum carrier player, and I have featured on the channel a few times before. He has given me a lot of excellent guidance around playing carriers that have helped me out significantly. And again, it gave me the confidence, or it was a key part of giving me the confidence to be able to play this solo and do pretty well. So starting with the gameplay, I started over on the east side to spot the east flank, and I had moved to the middle to spot the middle, and the opposing Minsk, which is the only destroyer on the other team, is here at Bravo. His carrier is helping to defend him, so I can't go after him right now, and in fact, he's already cut into smoke, so I can't even see him, and I'll swing over to the west side to spot the flank at Alpha. Our Skonia, which is the only destroyer on our team, hadn't loaded in when the game started. I had originally planned to go support him first, depending upon where he wanted to go. But again, because he hadn't spawned in, I elected to just do a scan of the opposing fleet. I'll try to get an attack in here over on the west side before all my planes get shot down. And I got most of the fleet spotted, other than obviously the carrier and maybe another ship. So one of the things that Erwin pointed out to me, and this has been probably the single most important lesson I've learned so far, is you have to line up your attacks, or you have to line up your position relative to your target before you start your attack. When you attempt to maneuver heavily after you initiate your attack, your reticle doesn't gather up, and you'll end up having a very poor scattered drop, and you often will just entirely miss, especially with things like dive bombers or torpedo bombers. And so that, again, was the part that I felt like I needed to master first. In fact, before I did any random battles, I spent many games in co-op just practicing. So I probably did 100 games at tiers 4 and 6 combined to learn the mechanics on drops, try to plan them well so that I could execute drops successfully. And one thing that I did learn, and Erwin pointed this out as well, is that the humans respond very differently under aerial attack than the bots do. The bots tend to sail in pretty much straight lines. For the most part, they're quite predictable, and so getting drops on them is relatively easy. And getting them on humans, however, is much more difficult, or can be, because they will tend to maneuver to avoid drops. And in this case, like this Surrey, I did get one torpedo on him, but he is turning away, and this is going to be a suboptimal drop. I am at least going to drive him away from the cap and the mid, even though the opponents do have Bravo already, but at least try to push him away. And then now I'm going to go, well, actually I make a mistake here. I launched my torpedo bombers again and then realized I wanted to get my dive bombers, so I have to recall the torpedo bombers and now get my dive bombers. So again, this is a mechanic and a process that I'm trying to learn. We just lost our Omaha. I think that was over at Alpha, and then we immediately lose our New Orleans as well. They were very overextended trying to take Alpha, and now our Skonia is he has spawned into the game, or loaded into the game, I should say, and He is going for the alpha cap. I think I'm going to go mid here to see if I can spot either the Minsk or the Surrey, because they would probably be the biggest threat to the Skonia trying to take the cap. I will come over here, and I think I drop a fighter for him here, at least to give him some cover in case the opposing carrier decides to, yeah, I do drop a fighter here, in case the opposing carrier decides to try to come and attack him while he's taking the alpha cap. Just give him some protection. He doesn't have smoke that he can drop to give him some isolation or some invisibility, and instead I've come over here, look to try to get work on this König, but the König takes a big hit, I think probably from our Nagato or our Iron Duke, and so now I've elected to switch over to the Dallas. Now I'm coming in here with dive bombers, and I talked earlier about making sure you line up your drops really well. This, for me, I found dive bombers have been the most difficult to line up correctly, and so I think I'm going to get, I do get one Citadel hit here, but the dive bombers are the one attack process that I've tended to be least effective with, and there I make a mistake where I end up flying through a flak cloud. Now I do try to avoid flak by trying to sort of fly around them, increase my speed when I can get through them as quickly as possible, but sometimes you don't have that luck and you end up plowing right into a flak cloud just as it bursts in front of you, and you end up losing your squadron like I did there. Now I'm going to come back to the mid. We've secured alpha, and I'm going to come in and try to put some pressure back on this low health Surrey, or at least get him lit, so our allies, excuse me, can take him down before maybe he gets another heal in, or maybe I can try to hit him. I think he gets taken out here before I am able to get to him. I don't remember. Yes, he does get taken out by our Nagato, and there's the Minsk. So I'm going to circle back around, get an attack in on the destroyer, try to keep him lit so our allies can finish him off, because once he goes down, then our Skonia can move into the mid and try to take Bravo. Unfortunately, we have too many allies that are over on the one line, and at some point I'm going to ping on the map here. Oh, by the way, this attack on the Minsk was a little behind, and one of well, I've made this observation before. One of the problems with the replay system is that we can't see the reticle of the carrier, or frankly any ship for that matter, but the carrier in particular, it's very instructive to be able to see the reticle when watching these replays, and I already have a request from a couple of folks to do a replay with while I'm playing the game, or somebody's playing the game, so we can see the actual reticle. Now I did drop a fighter, which has now been shot down over Bravo to keep the Minsk lit, but fortunately he was close enough to some of our allies on the south side of Bravo. They've just finished him off. That's going to give the green light for our Skonia to be able to go and get that cap. In fact, I've just called on it to try to get it. Our team has a pretty healthy lead now. We have a 4-ship advantage. I've just pinged on the map, as I mentioned earlier, because we've got too many heavies, battleships, excuse me, that are on the far west side of the map. Our Nagato and our Gneisenau, I think, do start turning in, but our Iron Duke is going to continue to sail up the one line. Just lost our Königsberg to a detonation from the opposing carrier, so that's unfortunate. He was in the mid on the south side of Bravo, coming in for an attack on the New Mexico. And I think with this attack, again, we can't see this with the reticle, but I end up launching a tad too late, and the torpedoes do not arm in time. They both would have hit the New Mexico. I think this is one of the cases where, and I've seen this happen a couple of times, where I will pretty sure I've clicked in order to drop the torpedoes, but they don't drop, and I end up having to click again. But by that point, they're a little too close, and they don't end up arming. With this drop, I am going to get the torpedoes away, and I know I'm going to get at least one on the King George. So looking to support the mid and the east now, because most of the opponents have been pushed off of the mid. We do have an AFK Colorado, which is way up on the Bravo 5 sector. In fact, there will be a comment in chat from the opposition about the fact that he's AFK, and the Reds are asking us to report him. You know, they're free to report their own player, but the fact that he's not in game is kind of helping us to an extent. My focus is going to be on helping to make sure that we get Bravo, and that means working on this New Mexico. I pinged on the map a couple of times on this Iron Duke, but it's kind of a waste, frankly, at this point. I don't need to ping on the map anymore. There goes the Colorado that was AFK up on the north side of the map. And so now our focus needs, again, to be the New Mexico and the King George. This is going to be, what is this, dive bombers, I think. Then I'm going to come in on the New Mexico. Yeah. So again, I can't emphasize more strongly, and this is the point that Erwin, my colleague, pointed out, is to make sure that you line up these attacks before you start your attack run. Again, dive bombers, I need to work and refine my approach vectors. I'm got a couple of bombs on him, but it wasn't as centered as I really wanted. I imagine that sometimes when your target is maneuvering, it makes it difficult. But battleships tend to be a little bit easier to hit because their rudder is obviously much more sluggish than it is for destroyers or cruisers. And so hitting battleships with dive bombers should be relatively straightforward. I've come back here with some rocket planes. I was originally going to go after the New Mexico again, but the New Mexico has taken a big hit, and I'm going to trust that one of our allies can finish off the few hundred hit points that he has, and I'll concentrate on the King George. There it does go, the New Mexico. So coming in here, the Japanese carriers have this sort of horizontal attack vector or attack reticle for the rockets, and so you tend to come in on the side of the ship rather than going bow or stern on. And that first attack was good because I got all 6 into the superstructure, which is again another point of advice I got from Erwin with these rockets when you're going after more armored targets, is to try to get the rockets up into the superstructure where you'll get alpha and actually do damage and potentially still set a fire. The second run that I had, I fired a little late, and so some of my rockets went into the superstructure. Others hit, I think, the turret and ended up shattering and not doing any damage. Now I've brought in torpedo bombers. Now with torpedo bombers, the key here, at least for me, has been to get into a parallel track with your target. And in this case, I want to be about 5.5, 6 kilometers out so that I can line up my parallel position while staying outside the AA, and then only turn in once I know that I can start my vector run, and I minimize the amount of time that I'm spending in the AA. I will accelerate here as I come in to minimize the amount of time I'm spending here. Line up the torpedo drop. Now again, he's turning in here, so I'm going to drop a tad earlier to make sure that these torpedoes arm before he gets there. Now he does avoid those torpedoes, but because his rudder is probably still straightening out, he will be more vulnerable here. This should be an easier drop for me to make. In fact, what I see is a lot of skilled carrier players will tend to drop at an angle on the stern side of their targets because it's harder for them to avoid all of the torpedoes. And in fact, I do get both torpedoes on the King George, one with flooding, and he is flooding from presumably a previous damage control. And I'm going to take out most of the remaining health from that flood. Come in here with some dive bombers, look to try to finish him off. Although we do have a Budioni that's been doing very well to kite the western flank, or I'm sorry, the eastern flank, and stay in the game and keep the pressure on these on the battleship. We are down. Our team obviously has a huge lead here. We are going to win this match. We're down to this very low health King George. There is Mikoyan, which is the premium tier 5 Russian cruiser on the north side of Charlie. There I do finish off the King George. And at this point, I'm going to detect the Furious. We are well beyond 900 points. I am going to get one attack in on the carrier, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get another one in with the remaining time. Carriers tend to have excellent AA, pretty much at all tiers, even tier 4. They also get fighters, which can make them very hard targets to go after, excuse me. think I get only one bomb hit here. And now I'm going to send out rockets. I will try to make my way over there, but we are going to win here in just a few seconds. And I'll switch over to the end screen. So 54,000 in damage, 1 kill. And like I said, I thought I did pretty well. When we look at the leaderboard, I end up being in the top half of the team, 5th. So not, the biggest damage dealer. I didn't obviously take any caps, but I thought I did pretty well to support the team, and most of the things I felt like I executed pretty well. So I hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there on the virtual seas, and we wish you happy sailing.